then on up to New York, where it will be managed by the lovely Sinaloa cartel of Mexico. Yes.
So why did they come to Miami to get the money? I still don't get the idea. So why did they come to Miami to get the money? Oh, they were dropping off the drugs and then getting the money?
Because first it goes to Miami. First, the cocaine goes to Miami.
Yeah.
And I know this because the charging document has a bunch of the stuff from WhatsApp. Because I mean,
they have learned the lesson of Jared Kushner.
Had you not seen WhatsApp and other charging documents?
Yes.
Like, it's not very secure, people.
It's not really encrypted at all.
There's no accounting for I don't know. I'm not in charge. I'm not their manager. I'm just here watching.
Yeah.
So he's using WhatsApp.
Eric, I'm so old-fashioned. I'm actually like, I would be disinclined to commit crime even over Telegram or Signal or something like that, right? Like, I try not to do written crime. You know?
Makes sense.
My Italian ancestors are rolling in their graves right now. They maintained their Southern Italian dialect and walked out to a bocce field and then still used Italian and then still used code words. They would, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, any fucking Grateful Dead 90s veteran be able to teach these people how to comms a little bit better, man. We didn't even have cell phones.
People have just gotten so trusting, right? I think they just get so trusting that they just let it go. They don't care anymore. They just think no one's watching.
It's astounding to me, like the shit that people will send on Signal sometimes. I'm like,
well, Signal's safe, isn't it? Tell me Signal's safe. Please tell me Signal's safe. I feel like it is safe, isn't it? No?
Okay, yeah, but like,
it's
I don't know. I mean, in theory, right? But like, to me, if you're like a drug dealer or whatever crime you're involved in, like texting people and being like, hey, do you want to pick up the 2 pounds for Don Jr. tonight at 9th and Broadway? Just seems dumb, you know?
Yeah. But you got to keep a record of it somehow. Receipts are tough to keep.
Right.
I've got bad allergies, by the way, so I'm going to be tearing in front of you, and it's not cocaine; it's just bad allergies that's happening to me. So,
I have that too, and I just moved back to like allergy. Like the point, like it's literally ground fucking zero. The county above ours proudly advertises itself as the world's grass seed capital. And like in about a month, I'm going to want to go up there and set it all ablaze, you know?
I don't know why this happens to me, but it happens to me all in one moment, as I'm sure it does to everybody else. But boy, it just like it just hits you. And when it hits you, there's nothing much you can do. So I'm going to be tearing up to all the wonderful things you're going to say tonight.
I think it's just that Eric's haircut's so beautiful. It makes me want to cry too.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's looking so, just
much.
I mean, that was no Great Clips haircut.
I know. You just want to put your hands right through there and just see what it feels like, don't you, Eric? Sorry.
I asked
wants
for
to give you
head
head.
haircut.
Literally.
I asked for I asked for the Marine General Officer haircut because I'm in a mood. So anyways, we're going to finish up the joke here. The guy, the interlocutor between the Colombians, and then you go to the Queen of England, but we got to get to the Sinaloas. Well, who are we going to deal with in Miami? Hezbollah, Lebanese Islamic terrorist group, Hezbollah. Now, it turns out, apparently, his guy was really a DEA agent who was posing as Hezbollah. But,
I mean, not right, but okay, that's interesting. They have a DEA agent posing as a Hezbollah guy buying drugs from the British Virgin Islands premier and his Port Authority person, which they came by to pick up $700,000 in Miami.
No, worse than that, right, Eric? If I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong. This dude that was as a DEA agent that's pretending to be a drug smuggler is also a drug smuggler on behalf of Hezbollah, right? That's the lie that the agent tells this dude?
Yes.
Right, Eric?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the confidential source, my understanding, it gets sensitive here. Are we talking about a confidential source who works for DEA? DEA has recruited him, or are we talking about a law enforcement officer? I don't think I've pinpointed that yet. The documents just hit before the show.
I just wonder, how does the Hezbollah tie in? Like, what is their role? Because, okay, I know you're saying we got to take the cocaine from Colombia through the British Isles, I thought, to Miami, and that this guy's supposed to do some kind of customs clearance, get them in, get them out of the British Isles. But I'm still confused as to what the fuck Hezbollah is doing.
This is a really cool opportunity here. When we hear about these terrorist networks of ISIS and Al Qaeda and whatnot, these guys act like gangs, right down to the meth, prostitution, trafficking of arms, trafficking of kids. They are mobsters with just a different outfit and cut.
But wait, I think the DEA guys
they contribute to a lot of. They contribute to a lot of campaigns, that's for certain, definitely in Florida. But so Hezbollah operates in the United States, and I believe there's quite a bit in Eastern Tennessee and whatnot. You'll see dudes with the identifying tattoos. I don't know what percentage of them are working for the DEA. I hope it's a substantial percentage there.
Let's just hope it's Don Jr.'s source that works for the DEA.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's you got me. That's a hell of a geographic map to try and piece together. Do you think the drugs are destined to that part of the world, to Tennessee, or are they part of where are they landing up? Where were they?
Well, they were headed for They were headed for New York,
Okay.
And this is why logistics is so important for the mob, and that like, well, does this ever make it to Beirut? Well, Beirut's a pretty rough place, and they have a big old port there. And you may remember the CEO of Nissan, when he got arrested, or he got indicted for financial crimes in Japan. He had himself smuggled out of the country to Beirut,
right?
Where Hezbollah has a big, a large presence there. And it takes a second for people to wrap their head around the idea. It was like, wait a minute, I thought those were terrorists. Yes, but terrorists work with the mob. They kind of are their own little mob family. And they also have connections where they're run with intelligence services. So, how much of Hezbollah is, there's a heavy connection with the Iranian intelligence service there. But, there may be others that they do deals with and know about and work with, like the Russians or the Saudis or,
the Americans.
Hard telling.
So the Iranians and the American DEA could be supporting the Hezbollah together, or working with the Hezbollah together.
Well,
just got the idea right here.
Well, you could have somebody who's a Hezbollah terrorist that our federal agents go, hey, how would you like to not go to prison forever?
Okay.
How would you like to do this for us, or whatnot? Or you have people who are confidential, or you have undercovers. You have undercover agents in ATF, FBI, DEA, who spend years getting tatted up. They start working at certain clubs. They hang out with biker gangs. They commit crimes to get the trust of these other criminals, and then they report back. And sometimes they're wearing really, really sophisticated technology that the guys are not going to go, you're wired up, because they don't even recognize it. They wouldn't know what to look for there, and it's a hell of a job.
Not to bury the lead there, though. You were saying that the Queen, who's representative on the island of the British Virgin Islands, her representative there, the premier. I mean, they do have some sort of nominal democracy, I believe, but still, her representative there was the guy actually doing the drug deal. Wow, the Queen's own representative.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have the governor. The governor general there is I think the official. Like the official head of government there, and the premier. Either way, you're within 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon there from
and Jeffrey Epstein, just because
dealing blow to Hezbollah so it can get to the Sinaloa.
Yeah.
Now, when I read this, I'm like, this is like if you got high or drunk and you did Mad Libs and like no. Okay, the Queen's is the Queen of England. You go to Miami to with Al Qaeda and Hezbollah. I mean, it's a lot of different code word, keywords.
It is.
Pop up.
I'm guessing
People
the
that
Queen's
you've heard
got a
of.
bit about this one,
I'm sure she's got her. She
Well,
gets
she
her
doesn't-
10% or something, whatever.
Well,
whatever
first-
she skims off the
First of all,
top.
she's 96. But this is the same family that includes Prince Andrew, right?
Yeah.
And
Sort of.
the British Virgin Islands has the thing that's most important about the country that so as we've known so far is that they're a haven for a lot of financial dealings that have been, I believe Parliament has ordered them to reveal who their ultimate beneficial owners of their accounts are, which there's been some foot dragging on.
Oh yeah, when did that happen? When did that happen? I didn't know that the British.
Recently.
A couple of years ago. Yeah. A couple of years ago, and then it keeps, they keep requiring it, and at the end of 2020, right after the election, we put in our National Defense Authorization, or the NDAA bill, we put in a whole bunch of provisions about revealing the identity of the LLC owners in Delaware. Mm-hmm. And authorizing new powers and more budget for FinCEN, Treasury FinCEN, the FinCEN death robot of death, that does, as an intelligence agency, tracks, drug dealer, mob, terrorist financing, just like this. And it's funny, the head of FinCEN was on Capitol Hill today saying, guys, we are so awash in mob money and spy money and terrorist money, we're like out of budget. We need more budget. I'm like, well, quintuple that stuff. Let's get these guys. I mean, they're some incredible bang for the buck.
The only way to raise that revenue is to actually have more mob money in the system. So I'm just joking, but it's a little something like that.
Oh no, it's a very the multiplier.
Yeah,
for every dollar we spend in taxes, what you get in asset forfeiture.
Really? Okay, yeah, good point. Especially those yachts. Those yachts look pretty good. Hey, it's time for our segment. It's Raining Tapes. I don't have the music here, but you can imagine it, unless one of you wants to sing.
It's raining tapes. Hallelujah. Okay, there we go.
Thank you. Well done.
I don't know any other words except for that part.
It's the only words that matter. It's actually the same words over and over again. So it's been a busy week at the GOP, because without them, we'd have no show every Friday. But, they like to deliver us all these delicious, lovely tapes on a Friday. And we get to talk about them. And there's been a few. One, we'll get to the Madison Cawthorn, is he gay or not tape in a second, which is not really relevant whether he's gay or not. It's just the fact that he was also a supporter of gay legislation, anti-gay legislation. But we'll also get to Lauren Boebert and MTG. We had an almost fight recently. Did you guys see that in the Politico today? Yeah, I'll get to catch up.
Throwing hands?
They were throwing hands. We don't have tape, unfortunately, but we have reports of them having a fight. But we want to start with our friend at the head of the Republican caucus of the House, Kevin McCarthy, whose tapes were released just after he announced. So these are tapes from January 6th. They came out from his meeting with his caucus right after January the 6th. So pick it up, Rachel. Tell us more about it.
Oh, well, I mean, I think everybody's probably heard this story, but I'll just lead in and let you guys know that back in the smoking ruins of the Capitol time period, and it turns out McCarthy was like the rest of us, totally horrified, reading security. I mean, we didn't get to read the briefings, but hearing about security briefings that were, ongoing threats to the Capitol. And he, like the rest of us, recognized what it was, an armed insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the government. But only will tell people in private that. And the good thing is, Lordy, there are tapes, right?
Lordy, there are tapes. And we're very thankful to all the tapes. There's 3 in total. I hope there's actually 2. So I'm going to hope that these are the right ones. This is, I'm just going to play it. We'll listen to what it is. And here's Kevin McCarthy. This is from the 10th.
The other thing that we have to do is these members on either whatever position you are, calling out other members, that stuff's got to stop, especially in this nature. So when I get up right here, I'm going to call Gate. But anything else we see, don't assume I see everything. Don't assume I know everything. But we've got to have one central point. So, I mean, if you can bring this stuff to Dan, Natalie, or Legansky, so you could have it. But, I mean, don't sit back around. It's going to be you guys personally. Tension is too high. The country is too crazy. I do not want to look back and think we caused something or we missed something and someone got hurt. And I don't want to play politics with any of that.
So the problem is, he sounds
what date was that?
January the 10th, I believe, was when he had that call. So 4 days after the insurrection. He sounds positively reasonable. He sounds like a normal politician. maybe underneath
Yeah, it
Kevin
sounds like a
McCarthy.
guy whose party just tried to overthrow the government, and he's kind of freaked out about it,
as he should, like normal.
Yeah, like, a human.
And now they're like, well, okay, yeah, because the DC Metro Police came in and did medieval hand-to-hand combat for enough hours that it looked bad, and then you had to call belatedly 3 hours, as we said in our show last night. Eventually they were like, okay, call on the National Guard and make it look like we're cleaning up, and then 4 or 5 days later, like, let's not make it look like someone's gonna get hurt here.
Even he found Matt Gaetz offensive at that point, which is kind of like, well, that's good. That's a good sign. It means there's some rationality going on there. But we know that a few days later, he changed his mind. So, because he met Donald Trump, because he went to kiss the ring, as they say down in Mar-a-Lago. Let's listen to the second part of this tape, because this is part 2.
Another thing that we have to do is these members on either whatever position you are, calling out other members, that stuff's got to stop, especially in this nature. So when I get up right here, I'm going to call Gates. But anything else we see, don't assume I see everything. Don't assume I know everything.
Oh, did we listen to this one already?
But we've got to have one central point.
Yep.
So
Okay. Oh.
Yep.
Oh, dear. That's 2 of the same tapes. Okay.
We need one central point of treason.
Yes. Okay. So we got that. I guess we don't have his second part of his tape. Oh, sorry about that. There you go.
Well, they are good at centralization.
The treachery.
Yeah. So it also dovetails with his, remember that speech that he gave? This was also around the 10th. He gave that speech in the House where he was really, really critical of Donald Trump.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump. Accept his share of responsibility, quell the brewing unrest, and ensure President-elect Biden is able to successfully begin his term. The president bears responsibility.
That word quell just sits so well on Kevin McCarthy's tongue, doesn't it? Quell. Such a fine, refined term.
I got to tell you, I'm not going to say I had hope, maybe a little bit. I'm very, as you guys know, I know all the doom that's coming, right? So it's not like, but there was a moment, there was like 3 days where it looked like maybe McCarthy and McConnell were going to do the right thing, right? And damn.
Well, that was their opening.
They just screwed it up so bad because it was their only chance to excise this cancer. And they both thought short term that their fastest path to power instead was to get back and ride the dragon some more, right? But the fact is that dragon, even before these audio tapes came out, it's not likely to deliver him to the speaker's gavel. At the end of the day, it's going to turn around and eat his ass before it gives him that gavel. So,
well, we don't know that for sure. He gets a lot of his money from, well-financed mobsters in Texas, apparently.
But he's got to win a vote in the House, a majority vote of the membership.
Yeah, but they also support a lot of other GOP members, so he might be able to.
So a lot of it will depend, honest to God, I think, on the size of their majority. If they take the majority plus another 30 seats, then I think McCarthy's probably your speaker. But if it's really, really tight, I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think they've now announced that on June 8th, I think they're going to start the hearings in prime time, these public hearings around January the 6th. Do you think that's going to have an impact on the election results coming in November?
Jamie Raskin called it. Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Jamie Raskin said, we now have enough evidence to prove this is like the worst crime ever committed from a presidency in the history of the multiverse. He was a bit high, he wasn't hedging his bets there. He's like, guys, this is really bad. So,
and they've not yet revealed all the things that they say they know. There's crimes that have not been reported. There is evidence that has not been reported, and there's also tapes that have not been released. So there's still lots to come out from this.
I think it's going to be amazingly brutal every night, every day. But at the end of the day, this is the worst part when we have these incremental reveals and piece by piece comes out, is the media doesn't bother to ever recap the context. So it will report each day's developments, almost like forgetting the larger narrative. And we have to paint the narrative for the public or else it won't resonate. There's so much partisanship. And I'm telling you guys now, you're not going to see a lot of Republican or right-leaning independents watch these hearings because they are going to prefer to not know what's in them.
Oh, really? Even though it's going to be like in the middle of summer and there's not much on TV, you know.
Oh yeah, people do that shit all the time, especially if so. Like when you think about these impeachment trials, you did not get an audience. You didn't get the audience you wanted to have. You certainly did not get any. I mean, very few Republicans watch these things and let you let the story unfold. Instead, it's better to listen to Rush Limbaugh as he watches and tells you what's happening, or whatever, right?
Sean Hannity or whatever.
And you don't get that news. Like, I mean, I monitored right-wing media during the impeachment trial, and like I've told you guys before, giant revelations about Giuliani's conversations and activities in the Ukraine. On that day, the way the right-wing media, the whole system covered the story was some little scene with Jim Jordan or whatever in it, harping about harassing one of the witnesses. Okay, that they never talked. They never even reported the Giuliani shit.
Do you think that because the Fox News has to cover this, Fox News has to carry the entire proceedings, that's not going to make a difference? You think it's just the analysis and the narrative shaping around that is going to win the day?
I don't remember them carrying the impeachment trial on all the way either.
Okay.
Didn't they show segments of it or whatever?
I think they carried the impeachment trial. I think most of it, I think they carried. But then they spun it, before and afterwards. Sorry, Eric, you were trying to get your word in earlier on about this. Or you're not? Eric?
He's
frozen?
paused.
It's frozen.
I hope when I freeze, I look as awesomely consternated as him there. He's like thinking.
Yeah, it was a good shot. You froze well, sir. You're unfrozen, I think.
I have resting consternation face.
What were you going to say? You were going to say something about all of this. Or maybe you weren't. Maybe you just froze.
Just glad it's not me this week.
I was going to say that, look, you can't assume just the impeachment and C-SPAN and whatnot. The three of us represent 11% of C-SPAN's audience.
Right.
Especially for those trials, right? I mean,
possible.
When you get into this, more. You're like, I mean, like I've read the Mueller report. I've read the Senate Intelligence Volume 5. That's not typical. I can go walk up and down my neighborhood here and go, would you like to discuss? I'll be like a Jehovah's Witness, but with the Senate Intelligence Report Volume 5. Like, would you like to discuss the Senate Intelligence Report Volume 5 and Konstantin Kalimnik? I don't think I'm going to get a lot of takers there.
I don't think so.
So I think the hearing. Nope. I think the hearings only have a real impact if we have like some criminal charges that precede them. Now, today was the first day we got one of the Oath Keepers pleaded guilty to seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government by blocking the election itself.
Oh,
wow. That's the first plea like that, right?
That's a plea deal.
The plea deal is down to a maximum of 40 years. That's the plea.
Wow.
Is 40 years.
Well, who was it? Which one of them was it?
Count.
Which one was it?
I forget the guy's name. It was not Stuart Rhodes. Oh yeah, we're off to the races now. So
that's a really significant development there. That's a significant thing that just happened in that case.
Well, we need to see that shit for all of these motherfuckers if we want to call ourselves living in a functional democracy, dude.
Well, is that what you're saying, Eric? That you think that by the time June happens, there'll be a lot more of this? This is basically what you're saying, that we're just beginning to see the DOJ activity on Jan 6, and it could be coinciding with a lot of the hearings?
They cannot, they do not share information. The DOJ does its investigations and prosecutions, without political interference. So if they would be talking with a congressional committee about it, of elected officials, and influenced by them or influencing them, then that would be a commingling of executive and judicial and legislative branch. And that's a big no-no for DOJ. And I'm very confident that Ireland is going to maintain, for nothing else, the security. You have the minimum number of people investigating, the minimum number of people prosecuting, and you certainly don't give it to Congress critters. You know?
I understand what you're saying, and of course, but there must be some sort of deconflicting going on. There must be someone out there who's making sure that they're not releasing stuff that might be harmful to the investigation. There must be some of that going on because they are.
Oh, I think this is the most tightly controlled investigation in the history of the Republic, and I think it's under the correct assumption that this is also going to be the most explosive investigation because they are almost having their hands tied on having to charge a criminal conspiracy all the way up to the presidency.
Well, they have
right?
to, right? I mean, they basically have to.
And here's the thing is like, you can't not charge. So like when I talk about all the shit I talk about coming up in 22, it's under the assumption that there's going to be prosecution of the main, organizers and Trump himself up for these offenses, right? Certainly expect that because if you think about there are complications with proceeding with a charge or indictments, but when you think about the alternative, right, in terms of just pure national security, there is no alternative. You would have to leave America massively exposed on the flank to not charge this, and I just don't see how that can happen. And if it does happen, I don't think that it would be good. My only worry is this, guys, is that I feel like maybe we're going to have these committee hearings with this damning story revealed and the expectation that it will create a groundswell of pressure on DOJ to uphold the rule of law. And I don't know that our population can produce that kind of groundswell. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that they're going to just move it. It has to move. It's a national security interest.
And it's interesting that you're saying that it could happen at the same time. That might be an attempt to at least time the groundswell or at least some public opinion change at the same time as these DOJ indictments are coming down.
Because you want, the public, here's the thing is like, there's no scenario in which there's anything you can do that's going to keep the people who are guilty in this plot from defining it as a partisan witch hunt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's because they're the other party, right? So I think it's just really important that they have as much compelling public forward-facing evidence as they can possibly muster without compromising the legal aspects of the case. But it is very important that you win the 53% of America that is capable of rational thought and win it handily.
Wow, that's a huge thing to think about. If those two things are happening at the same time, and it's almost like they're going on trial before they're going on trial. If they have these public hearings at the same time as they're getting arrested or new charges are coming for the
I don't think it'll be immediate. I mean, I would expect like the public hearings go on and the evidence comes out.
Yeah.
Wow.
and then the arrest. Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But it is seditious conspiracy that he pled guilty to. I mean, there's no doubt that this is what they're investigating. This is what they're looking at. We know who the conspirators are, and we know what the sedition looked like. So it's it goes all the way to Donald Trump. There's just no way to look at it. There's no other way around the story.
And what Rachel said, you got to keep on this because the media is going to just reset the narrative clock back to whatever today's thing is, which dulls it, right? You remember a while ago, they're like, look, there's some people who are at the Capitol, but they're not charging seditious conspiracy. So there's no reason to get like all hyperventilating about this. And then they brought in Stuart Rhodes and they brought up seditious conspiracy. And it's not like the media underlined that. We did, but these corporate media companies, they don't. And so now we got somebody who's pleaded guilty to that, and it's like, they're getting like the 10 days in prison, 90 days in prison for these misdemeanor guys. This dude's up for 40
years,
right?
for the most serious crime we have. I mean,
that's part of his deal. Is that his deal, or that what he?
That's the deal.
The deal he's for. Wow.
That's the deal, right? I mean, I read
how bad is your shit when you're taking a 40 fucking year plea deal, dude?
Oh man! Right? Look, when you're up for 600 years in prison, you do a plea deal down to 100 and you do a plea deal down to 125 years.
The evidence must be extraordinary too, right?
Yeah. Evidence is pretty extraordinary.
It's like they sit down across from you and they're like, look, fuckface, you plead and you'll get an extra cup of pudding on Thursday nights and an extra 25 minutes to walk around the quad. If not, it's the general population.
Yeah, just turn on everybody else that you organized this with. And he did. These people are turning because of course they would. I would take any deal at this point if I was up on these charges, even if you claim you had no idea what you were involved in.
You have no idea how much that extra pudding cup might mean to you when you're in federal penitentiary, learning the meanings of the new Armenian tattoos.
Have these people so dead to rights if they didn't write down all their crimes and send them to each other.
Yes, and videotape them and live stream them because why not?
Live stream them.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Broadcast them in advance. They're like, everyone come on down to DC. It's gonna be wild. We're gonna have a poorly run.
I can imagine being the cops investigating this shit. It must be like you're in ludicrous world. God, who does this?
Can you imagine how much data they had to go through? Can you imagine how much, tons of data of gigabytes, whatever were they gigabytes? They would have had to look through to get to
terabytes, exabytes. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I guess you just search
thousands and thousands of hours of video.
Yeah. Here's
noose. Search noose,
So there's a new tape today. This is actually tapes and texts of between Sean Hannity, the anchor at Fox News, and Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff of the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. And these are also they borderline. I don't know. It's agreeing that they're somehow together forever. It's almost like a bromance that they're declaring.
It's good.
It's all about them setting up for January the 6th. So it happens the night before. And what's emerging is that Sean Hannity isn't just an anchor like every other anchor, which we've known. He's not typically an anchor, but he is actually an organizer. It feels like he's actually part of the seditious conspiracy, as you point out, that is being charged. He does feel like that's what's going on.
He worked directly. Do you remember he worked with Paul Manafort directly?
He did work with Paul Manafort directly. That's true.
Yeah, Hannity's sketchy, dude. I mean, he's always been sketchy, but then you get to, again, they laid out the crime in writing for us. So we get to read it like a novel, but it is astounding, how direct he is. I mean, this is not a man that's not unaware of journalism ethics, rules. I mean, he just watched, Cuomo get kicked off of CNN for inappropriate, cooperation with a story about his brother.
Yes, yeah, it's true. But Sean Hannity and the rest of Fox News have been complicit in ways that CNN hasn't even been complicit, and we think they've been complicit as well a bit. Fox News has really jumped the shark. And what we spoke about the other day, Eric, when we were doing the Elon Musk show, is how much Chinese money actually flows through to Fox News. Right. And that a lot of Sean Hannity's paycheck is probably paid for by Chinese money. So behind Fox News and
before that, it was this Prince bin Talal was one of the Saudi princes. Anyhow, it's a rich mix of Russian agents, Chinese cash, Saudi money. It's we've got it all. Come on down to News Corp. We've got it all.
Which is really troubling when you're in the middle of a seditious conspiracy, because if this is a seditious conspiracy that's also being organized by foreign agents or foreign countries that are using these assets, as they would be. Fox News would be an asset. Sean Hannity would be an asset to, create an insurrection. Well, that's a whole other thing. That is something I've never even contemplated in American law. I don't think it's ever happened before. Maybe during the Civil War, they had some issues with the press then, but that's we haven't had this kind of foreign propaganda run by probably a foreign government inciting anchors to work alongside and cooperate with the White House in an insurrection. And then also the wife of the Supreme Court Justice. I mean, there's a lot of high-powered people in that little that little grouping.
Yeah, they're not. What's that dude's name?
There's a lot going on.
George Pofalopoulos or whoever the dude was that kicked off the Russiagate scandal. They're not 2-bit players we're talking about, dude.
No, this is the real deal. So the tape is. I'm also struggling with this tape, which is unfortunate because I'm just having the worst week technically. But maybe I'll find it in a bit. I don't know what to say. I tried to load it up
in
the
web pollen.
It is actually, the pollen's killing me. I'm just going to sorry.
Can Eric and I just reenact it? We could do that, right?
Yes, you can. Do you have the scripts in front of you? It's on.
We need to have reenactment tweet, text message exchange.
I actually have a thing. I have a whole on my transcribing machine. I can actually make people say things. You can write some script and then it speaks it in their voice, which is kind of disturbing.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I might do some like
all
theater.
my F-bombs, that's what happens. Zev totally set me up, dude.
So when you're not here next week, we'll still have you here. We'll just we'll script you and it'll be easy to do.
Yeah, just record doom, doom, and insert doom every 10 minutes.
It's not going to be that bad. I think I'm hoping that it's not going to be that bad. I know that your polls are saying that. I understand that everyone's depressed and it's going to be, but this just doesn't make any sense to me that you've got so much crap on this awful, embarrassing party, the GOP, that it's just like you don't even want to invite them over for dinner, never mind elect them into any positions of power. These people are just gross. Every single one of them is gross.
They're crazy, right? Yeah. They're wackadoodles. But here's the thing. You can't do this experiment because you're in Canada, and that's a totally different environment. Okay. Yes, but like Eric, I don't know where the hell you are. Maybe if you're in the heart of DC, this won't work either. But if you walk around and ask randos about Kevin McCarthy tapes, they're not only going to have not any idea what you're talking about in terms of these tapes, right? They're going to be like, who the fuck is Kevin McCarthy? I'm trying to get people to understand, like, the norms. Like, they don't know any of this shit. They haven't heard maybe there's something coming out about this, speaker guy thing.
But they have heard about they've had Madison Cawthorn and MTG and Lauren Boebert. They have heard about them. No,
Zev, only 10% of the U.S. population can name the Speaker of the House of the Congress at any given time.
No shit. Or even know which party controls the Congress, dude.
All right. So that's
I'm not kidding. Like, that's when I sit here and I tell you, like, listen, our heavy lift isn't the hearings, it's getting people to know what the fuck comes out in them. That is what I mean, dude.
I got it. Okay. It's a very heavy lift then.
I think the hearings will be most useful as an explanation for, like, wait a minute, Trump's going to prison? Then they're going to need to hear why. Then they'll listen because we're going to, and that's really important because dude belongs in prison for any number of reasons, right?
Yes.
But especially for this thing has to be punished. And this is a rip tear. What has happened is worse than the Civil War. And the Civil War was covering for slavery to maintain slavery as the economic engine of a portion of this country. It is the most abhorrent institution that's ever existed here, and the stain is still on us today. This is a worse crisis than how the Civil War came about, which is, although its economic system is malevolent evil, they announced, they started firing on Fort Sumter, and they're like, we take our generals, you take yours. Almost all of them trained at West Point, and they're like, we're setting up a country. They printed money. They had conscription. They acted in the manner of a state. Now, Lincoln and, the North said, no, that's not, that's not how we see the Constitution. And we had a bloody fight. My great grandfather lost a leg fighting it from New Hampshire. And
people don't remember that, right? People don't remember how many people died in the Civil War and how many people died in the Second World War, and this the amount of lives that have been and blood that has been spilt for freedom and democracy, and then these guys are just throwing it away. It's just like
no shit, and because they can't even fucking read the news,
Yeah,
and it's not their fault. Like, here's the thing: my new book talks about this quite a bit, and it makes this really it prosecutes a pretty damning case about the American, the American citizen.
Yeah.
But it also talks about, look, at the end of the day, though, like, there's an incentive structure to our country, and there is very little incentive structure to push people towards civic literacy and civic engagement. In fact, our culture is so ass backwards. We teach people, especially now, these last two generations, that politics is so disgusting and so embarrassing and so dirty that actually what's morally superior is to not be involved at all in the government of the country or the state or the local area. So there are a lot of people. It's not just about access. There is an access issue that tramples down through race and race, ethnicity, and poverty. But there is also a lot of college educated, wealthy people who do not vote, and they actually think that they are better human beings than the three of us in our audience because they don't vote. That's how ass backwards our culture is in America. So, they are only responding to the environment that we have created. And that's why, really, if we can get this triage work done, our long-term fix is going to have to be in investing massive amounts of money in promoting a civic culture.
Yay!
I like that.
Yeah!
I like that a lot.
No, that's my jam, Holmes. That.
No, I
this
fucking
is
feel it, dude. Eric, I'm doing a job. Like, it's so antithetical to what I want to be doing. That's the shit that I want to be doing, right? I want to be building shit up, not using GOP dark arts to try to mirror their tear down model. But my goal is to get us there, and that work is just as important to me. And it needs to start 10 years ago, and it needs to start with really intensive push across many different think tanks on the center and the center left to get it going.
But at least we're starting now. It's better late than never, right? Here's the tape. I finally found it. It's going to start a couple of times. So just let me brief you a little bit as we watch it. So what they've done on the right side of the tape here, the screen here, is the text messages that Sean Hannity was sending his friend, Mr. Meadows, in the White House. And on the left is what he was saying to the audience on Fox News. So it's a nice contrast. And it's hopefully will reset anytime now. And we'll walk you through that. So, there he is with Ted Cruz the night before saying, big crowd tomorrow, and then he's texting all these concerns that he has to Mark Meadows at the same time. Not typically what a journalist does.
From the text there, and we'll get into much more about what they actually say, because I think they're very important there for this investigation. Hannity knew there was no path.
We have Ted Cruz coming on later in the program. We know that he wants this commission to look into this for 10 days. We're going to have about 150 House members supporting this as well. A big rally. I believe your dad will be addressing that rally tomorrow. Big day tomorrow. Big crowds apparently showed up to the point where the West Wing could hear the music and the chanting of the people that were there already. And this all kicks off in the morning tomorrow.
Well, Sean, that's right. And tomorrow is an important day. We have an obligation, I believe, to protect the integrity of the election and to protect the integrity of the democratic system.
Senator, I'm looking at the support you're getting in the Senate, and I'm looking at the support in the House, maybe 150 members in the end. It's looking like, realistically, can this really happen? I don't like to give this audience false hope. I want to... would we have an audit? Is that real? Is that a possibility? Do you see, for example, after tomorrow, is there a path for the president constitutionally?
So as you saw...
So, I mean, that's unbelievable. As a journalist, you really are not meant to do this kind of stuff. You're not meant to be taking part in any story. And he's not just... He's not just telling the story that he's going on. He's manipulating the population, manipulating the audience into doing certain things.
Just a little.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy that we live in this country in which this shit is happening, and we're figuring out 245 years too late that there's too much. For the founders, and Eric, I think you're going to appreciate this, for the bunch of guys that feared kind of tyranny and, authority and elites, and boy, did these guys undershoot how bad human nature is, right? Because they've designed a system that left so many holes, we filled them in with norms, right? Yeah. Norms that they're not laws, they're not requirements, they're just... you hold a confirmation hearing once the president has a Supreme Court appointee. It doesn't say in the Constitution the Senate will advise and consent. And by the way, even if the Senate doesn't like the president, they have to hold the confirmation hearing. That shit happened by norms. And so what has happened is we have entered this situation that is very similar to the Nazi Party in Germany, where they are polluting those norms. They're taking advantage of the way that the business has been conducted and exploiting anything that's got a legal weakness in it. So we are in real trouble because we we can't fix these weaknesses. We can't make it so the president, if you want to run for president as a party nominee, you have to pass a background check and reveal your financial information. We cannot make any of the fixes, because to do that we have to get this part that's at war with democracy to agree with us. I mean, when you think about post-Civil War, the reason you get the 13th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution, guys, is because the southern states weren't allowed to vote yet.
Right.
Like,
right.
you're
right.
amending
Like,
that
all right.
Constitution with a different caucus, yeah?
But this is also different because there's foreign involvement. I mean, it's not like these things just arrived on our shores. I mean, it did arrive on our shores, obviously, and there are domestic forces that are anti-democracy now. But it originated externally, and it's an attack that doesn't look like an attack because there's no dead people in the street. But this is as deadly as what's going on in Mariupol in terms of our democracy. Like, I mean, there is actual, it's just an information war. It's just a different kind of attack. But it's in terms of the way
casualties yet,
and it has had some casualties and probably will have more. The more the more tension exists in our society, the more polarization happens. The more Elon Musk buys Twitter and Sean Hannity does what he does on Fox News, the more dangerous it becomes when we don't have a town square or a place where we can share ideas in a cohesive, sort of nice, sort of normal way.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the CBC and the BBC don't allow foreign investment in their news.
Yeah, they're also called, they're called, they're respected in a way that's above their actual output. I mean, in some ways, the CBC is just as tied into the state and its needs than it is to journalism, I would say. So, trying to be polite about my colleagues there.
I like this. But we're down here, dude. Are you
I know.
kidding? Anything up there, I was like, God, please let me go watch that.
I feel like I still live in America, even though I'm not, but as I spend most of my time in this bubble, this echo chamber that exists, it's quite easy to sort of plug into America, even though you don't have to go. You got to step outside. People might be a little calmer than they are in the United States, but it's still the tension is still present across the world, I think. It's not just America that this impacts.
If it wasn't for the digital era and like the Canadian and UK and Italian and German audiences being able to watch programming like Hannity, right? Like, then we wouldn't, I don't think, see it as globally pressured. I mean, certainly think that the environment here it's not the pure cause or only cause. It's a major mechanism of a lot of our problems is the right-wing media ecosystem. And now that has been globalized because of technology. And I think that's not an accident.
Yeah, but I think there's also ownership of these companies that are a suspect, and people don't ever pay attention to who really owns these companies. And they're not just corporate citizens. They are foreign states. That's really, a lot of the influence comes from foreign states. It's just the reality of CNN. It's the reality of Fox News and all these other networks they started. And same with Elon Musk. Sorry, Eric, you seem like you're getting there.
I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? That we don't have any protection. I mean, like the Macron, thank God, right? Macron beats this far-right nationalist for the second time, this time in the runoff. And it was an ass kicking because Macron was not loved, right? It's not like he went in there with like a ton of momentum, right? People were pretty pissed at him. And so like a 58 out of that runoff, to me, in that context, is pretty damn good. It's more of a reflection of rejection of the nationalism, the far right, than it was a testament to, I love Emmanuel Macron, right? But it was ultimately a rejection of that. And I just wonder if they could have pulled it off if they had our media system. And I don't know that they could have, honestly.
I don't think so.
Well, they have their, I started my career in Paris and I follow politics there pretty closely. They have corrupted media there too. And they had, a lot of their coverage was, very challenging for Macron. And his margin was smaller this time. And even though Marine Le Pen, who, remember, was one of the first people to arrive at Trump Tower after he won.
Right. I remember that. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I didn't. Because all the Putin agents showed up. You had Nigel Farage was number one, but Marine Le Pen was was
Oh my God,
right
yeah, I
behind
remember
him.
all that.
Well,
Such a good point.
you know, she took a loan straight from a Russian bank for her campaign, and that was set up by the deputy head of the Duma, who was just indicted for espionage in the Southern District of New York.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
And she still did better in. So this will tell you where the French media is at. She still, after that indictment dropped, she still managed to do better than she did when Macron won in 2017.
Which is amazing considering Putin is the enemy number one on the entire planet right now. There's, you know, you could not say.
I honestly see that as the difference between fresh, sexy, exciting Macron first term and a re-electing incumbent cycle.
That's true.
But, you know,
that's true.
But I mean, still, here's the fact. Fact of the matter is, at least 40% of the French population is like, fuck it. You know, Putin's in Ukraine. We'll try some fascism. Why not? You know, I mean, that's not good. It's definitely not good. That would not have happened 15 years ago. So it's definitely a problem. And there's tons of gray clouds out of that.
The people are hip to the fascism. They're into it. I want to talk about Scientology, but I did want to mention one thing about, should we do Madison Cawthorn? You know, I'm not particularly interested in his sexuality. I don't care about his sexuality, but I do think that there is something to be said about this guy who's, you know, basically, I mean, he visited, this is him visiting, I think with maybe his boyfriend, maybe his aide, who knows who this is. This is when he visited the Eagle's Nest in 2017 or something, I believe. I don't know. So,
oh my fucking God.
Him on vacation at the Führer's house.
It says it's his brother.
Wait.
It says it's his brother.
Thank you. Well, you know, I apologize for insinuating.
He went on a vacation. What?
Oh, his vacation included. This is his
his
highlight. That he's off his bucket list. He says here for the selfies is to go to this, you know, the Führer's vacation home in Germany. And this guy is not your typical GOP guy who's, you know, was maybe caught doing something he shouldn't be doing. He's also, you know, soon afterwards we met his wife at a CrossFit event staged by a former U.S. captain that he met at a St. Petersburg casino while on the same trip to Sweden. So he's in a Russian casino.
Hold on, didn't we talk about this on the show one time before?
Oh, Hammy knows it's time.
That casinos were outlawed in 2009. So as far as you know, reliable stories go. Yeah. That one's got some holes in it. Dude.
It's got some holes as well because it's not just an overnight trip. Because look how far it is to get from. It's like a 22-hour. I mapped this out. 22-hour ferry trip to get from Stockholm to St. Petersburg. So you don't just want to take there on a little jaunt. Look at Hammy. Hello, Hammy. Hammy, you know what Hammy's telling us?
It's too early for Hammy hugging.
It's almost time. It's okay. Hammy wants us.
He knows we're at about an hour. The dog is sharp.
We only Hammy hug at 5, and it is only 4:57 now.
He's so good at that, though, that he knows the time.
He knows, man. I'm telling you.
How do they do that?
Every day I get a 5 o'clock hug. I love it.
That is so great. That is so great. And then you stop work. That's when you decide to give up on the workload.
Yeah, he's very
in those 3 minutes that we have left, or 2 minutes now, we can talk about Madison, or we can, because I had all these tapes and I had all this timeline of Madison, but I guess we don't have to do that. We could talk about Scientology, but also that's a little depressing. But maybe just talk about it because it's interesting. Let's just mention it briefly.
Well, okay. I'd like to merge a couple of the last topics here. Yeah, there was a story came out. There's a civil lawsuit against the head of Scientology for some of the most grisly human trafficking of children stories run by the camps, they're essentially concentration camps that Scientology was running in Florida. And they also have
a boat. Don't they have a boat where they do? Yeah.
They had a 6-year-old who was forced to sign a 1 billion year contract for labor, which I'm pretty sure is unenforceable. And at 15, he complained, so they moved him out to the cruise ship. And there's 2 other plaintiffs, and it's just, it's the real grooming. This is the real, you get a kid when they're 6, and then you just destroy them and just make them believe that this is their entire life. But I want to talk about like the hammy high. I want to link that to the hammy hugs and fun memes and good and comedy shows. There's a lot of stuff that, I recommend to the audience something that I have to do for myself, which is self-care around making sure you have balance when there's a lot of really intense news that's coming out, and there's a whole lot of people that are going to disappoint you, but there's a point where atrocity builds up, and it's just got to be held to account. And some of these things are so, or so gruesome. And there's a story here in Missouri. It's finally getting it's starting to get national and international attention. There's a place called the Agape boys school, and it's for the troubled teens. And there's a whole industry around troubled teens where these schools are nominally religious. They are not regulated in the state of Missouri. And there has been a great factory of sexual and physical and psychological abuse that has been heaped on these poor children, who then apparently some get trafficked, but they all get damaged. And
I've
it's
had
now
so many. I had friends go through that shit back. I mean, when this industry was first developing, and I just think it's so sad because it preys on parents' urge to protect their children. But to put.
But I mean, it's not Disney, and it's not your school kid's teacher at preschool that are causing the issues.
They'd dump them out in the middle of Texas, right, where there's Javieras running around, and they'd give them little sandals. Shit, dude, it's pure on-site warfare, right?
This is Bolivar, Missouri, and it turns out that the local prosecutor and the local sheriff's office, they're all tied up in this. Some of the sheriff's families on the staff of this school, they have their own cemetery, just like they do in the residential schools up in Canada, where they've been finding.
Thanks for leaving us on that happy note. You're fucking fired from the end of the stories.
that's why I bring up the hugs, the funny memes. We have this weekend we have a rule in the house. We're going for as much stand-up comedy as possible, and other things, because and I just recommend for everybody, take care of yourself, and remember that monsters get along. They can get a lot done in the shadows, but humanity is not just monsters. Even if some of them, they get control of institutions and they get power and money that they, if we knew about it, that they never would have gotten. And they evaded capture for a long time, but now they're so lazy about it. They all put it on WhatsApp. And so we've got an ocean of court-ready data or court-ready evidence that can put some of these monsters in prison forever. And I think it's just trust me, as a futurist, as a strategic forecaster, I know it's coming down the pike more than the average bear, and make sure to do, take some hot baths, read some books, pick a time of day to unplug, because it's not there. There's a story coming about how this country and frankly the Enlightenment almost came to a halt here at the hands of some evil people. And y'all are going to need some binge watching on Netflix of some funny stuff. So, and
prepare yourself.
And prepare and be good to each other, and
be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other. Thank you for stepping that up. And party on dudes. That's right.
And it's still the greatest country on earth, and it still has the greatest people on earth. And actually, we all kind of agree with each other when you look at it. And that's going to be the beauty of the whole thing when we finally get through these painful things that are still coming ahead of us. Thank you for watching tonight on the After Show. Thank you, Eric Garland, at Eric Garland. But the podcast is called Game Theory Today. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And Rachel Bitterkoffer, at Rachel Bitterkoffer. Do you want to say anything else about your book? Anything else we should know?
No, dude, we have 4 minutes overtime.
I know Hammy wants you. It's Hammy time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah,
have a good weekend.
Narrative is made possible by viewers like you. You too can support our independent journalism by going to www.patreon.com/narrative.